Hello and welcome to another tutorial on data analysis on Excel. Today we are going to dive into hacking tools. Hacking tools in Excel typically refer to advanced techniques and features that can help you extract, manipulate, analyze, and visualize data more effectively. So today we are going to dive into some powerful and useful tools and functions in Excel that can significantly enhance your data handling capabilities. Okay, so let's get to it. Welcome to your data analysis video on Excel. Today we'll be talking about data cleaning function for Excel, and then we'll be talking about trim, prosper, and how to find and replace some values, how to clean up all your data. So right now on my interface, this is my workbook. I have a column that comprises of client names, Horizon Communication, INC, and then I have the Home Depot, Cisco System, INC. So right now, looking at this spreadsheet, you can tell that from the client name, these are not necessary in brackets. The details we have in brackets, which is XNYS, column VZ, these informations are not necessary. What we need is Horizon Communication, INC. So that's the information we need. There are some unwanted information in this spreadsheet, and then we need to clean them up. So let's start. Let's get to work. So right now, let's select all the information in our client name. Okay. Yep. Okay, that's it. So now let's go to find and select. So we are going to replace. So we are going to replace all the information in the brackets, including the brackets, all the information in the bracket. We are going to replace it with nothing. So what it means is that we are wiping up all the information in the bracket, including the bracket. So to do that, we go to find and select. So we click on replace. Now here we are. Find what do we want Excel to find or to clean up? I want Excel to find any information inside the brackets, any information inside the brackets, and the bracket itself should be wiped off. So to do that, I think I already have it here, is to open the brackets, and then we use asterisk. Asterisk means all information in the bracket should be cleared up. So that's it. Now replace with what? I'm replacing it with nothing. So which means wipe it up. Replace it with nothing. So I'll just click on my replace all. Okay, as you can see, all done. So we made 17 replacements. So that's it. And then we click on close. Okay, that's number one. Number two, looking at the contact information, we have names of different uppercase, lowercase, and some white space. They are scattered. They are not in the right format. Now, to do this, we need to use our trim and prosper. That's the function we need to use to put this together. So before we do that, we need to create a new column. So I'll click on my E, then Ctrl+Shift+ will give me a new column. Okay, let me tag the heading as contact name. Okay, now let's get to the information. Now, what code do we need to type? The formula is equals to trim. What trim does is to clear up the white space, to clear up where there is space. So trim, we open the brackets, then proper, not prosper, sorry, proper. Now what proper does is to make each case capital. Proper is used to capitalize the first letter of each word in a text. So that's what it does. So we open the bracket again and we select the cell. So this is the cell we are working on. Then we close the bracket twice because we open it twice. Okay, and then we enter. Okay, so we come over here and double click. Perfect. As you can see, we have everything in order. So this is the correction and this is the file we worked on. So we need to remove this. Now the problem now is they are linked together. So to remove this, we need to have a copy of this. So we need to copy this, Ctrl Shift down, Ctrl C, and then we need to paste it as value or else we can't remove it because they are both linked together. So we need to go to paste as value. Now we have it. Okay, so we can come over here and do what? Delete. That's Control. Yes, so that's it. So now we are done with this. So let's move to the next stage. So this is the spreadsheet. So first, let's take a look at, we have our first name here and we have our last name here. Now to merge these two names together, we can use concatenate or we use text join. It depends on your choice. So we can use concatenate to merge two columns together or we use text join. Okay, let's try both and see how it works. So right now I'm going to create a column. So Ctrl Shift plus. Okay. So I have my column here. So now let's start with concatenate. So we are going to use is equals to concatenate. So we have it here. And then first we have to choose our first column, which is B5. Okay, B5. And we give it a comma. And we open a double quote, space, double quote. We give it a comma. And then we choose our last name column. So this is it. And we close the bracket. So now let's execute it. So now we have our names together. Let me expand this. So this is it. This is how it works. So now we have Sweetwater Alex. Let's click it down. So this is it. So this is how it works. Okay, now let's talk about, we can name this full name. Full name. Okay, perfect. Now let's create another column. Ctrl Shift plus. Okay, now let's use text join. Now, to use text join, we use our equals to, then text join. Okay, now we open our double quotes, space, double quotes. Now we give it a comma twice. Okay, now we select our two columns, that's B5 and C5. So this is it. That's it. And we close the bracket. That's it. So let's execute it. So that's it. That's how it works. So we can give this full name too. So this is how we can use concatenate to merge two columns together, or we use text join. Now, one of the cool things about text join is when I click on the name, now I move to my formula bar. In between the column, I can put a delimiter, maybe a column. In between the quote, I can put a column. And what that means is when I execute it, there's going to be a colon in between the name. Now let's do that. Do you see that? So now we have Sweetwater colon Alex. So that's one of the cool things about text join. And we can put an hyphen. So now let's execute it. Okay, so this is it. So wow, so this is how to merge two names together using concatenate or text join. Okay, so one of the cool things about Excel is, for example, if I want to get to the bottom down of my row, I can just press Control. First, I have to select the cell, hold my Control down, then my down button. Do you see that? So it takes me to the bottom row. So now if I want to get back to the top row, I have to hold on to my key, Control, then press my Up key. That's it. So this is one of the cool manipulation functions. So now let's talk about the next one. Right now, I want to replace my male and female to M or F. Okay, I don't want it to come out like male or female, so I have to use my replace. So now to do that, first I have to Control Shift down. Now I have all this selected. So what I have to do now is to go to my home right here, and then I move to what? Replace. So what am I replacing? So right now I'm replacing male with what? With M. So this will replace all the male with M. So let's do that. Now replace all. Perfect. So 174 replacement. Now I'm replacing all the female. So what I have here is FEM with what? F. Now I know you'll be shocked that why FEM? The full word is female. Now you need to know that when you spell female, there is a male. So what Excel does is that it cuts off the male in the female and replace it with M. So that's why I have fem. So but right now I'm replacing the fem, which is supposed to be female because of my first execution. I'm replacing it with F. So replace. So okay. Now close. So right now that's it. Now let's talk about error handling in aggregate function. Okay, using aggregate function without worry about error disruption, your calculation goes so smoothly. So in summary, using the aggregate function, you can create more robust handles real-world data more effectively. So now let's take a look at some examples. Okay, so talking about aggregates, we use aggregates to do calculation of our sum, maximum, minimum. We use aggregate for our counts and for our average. So right now I have a report of Dangote, and then we have the product, the price, the location, and the rank. If I'm to get the average of the price of this report, I can start with my equals to average. Then I have to select the cell, the range of this cell, and then close the bracket, then enter. Now you notice I have an error. Why? Because when you look at my C5, which is this row, there is an error there. So with this error, I can't get my average, my total average, I can't get it. So that is where aggregate function comes in. Okay, let's try sum and see how it works. Is equals to sum, okay, and let me select the range. Okay, and close it. What do we have? The same error. So that is where aggregate comes in. So aggregate function on its own, it excludes the error and give you the average or the sum that you are looking for. And remember, Excel has over 470 formulas, okay? Yes, that's right. So now, how do we resolve these kind of issues? First, let's start with aggregate function. That is the magic key right now. So is equals to aggregate, okay? We have to select it. Now, the first option is what exactly do we want to do, okay? Which functions do we want to apply? So we have average, we have count, we have maximum, so now we are focusing on the average, so we have to press number 1, which is average. And remember, this function has about 19, okay, in this list. Okay, let's start with number 1, which is the average. Okay, then you give it comma. Now, what is the next step? The next step is, what do you want to ignore? Is there any error? Is there any options you feel like can fit into this? And there is, because we have an error in my C5, okay? So I have to come down here and select number 6, which is ignore error value, okay? This is it, ignore error value. So all I have to do is to press number 6 and give it a comma, okay? Now, if that is done, the next stage now is for me to select the range of the cell I'm calculating my average for, okay? So now I have to come over here, drag it down, and what next? I have to close the bracket. Now let's execute it. Perfect. That is it. So the total average for my price is 3.06. Okay, now let's talk about sum, okay? Let's work on sum. Now to do that, we start with what is equals to aggregate, the same process, okay? Now let's talk about the function number. So it's going to be number 9, okay? Now remember, the powerful function of this aggregate is that it can give you what you want, including the errors. It excludes the error out of it and gives you your total average or your total sum, okay? So right now, we are selecting number 9, which is the function we want to use, which is sum. Okay, 9, then we give it a comma. Now, what is the next step? The next step is, okay, in these cells, do you have any errors or options you feel like it fit into this list? Yes, we have, which is number 6, ignore error value. And I told you that we have an error in my C5. Okay, so we choose number 6, right? Then we give it comma. Now the next one is to select our array. So we need to select the range of what we want the sum for. So we go up, drag it down, then close the bracket, then execute. Perfect. So we have 24.51 as our total sum. So using aggregate function is one of the hacking tools you can use. Now, imagine you have like thousands of cells with values and you have a lot of errors like this. You can keep doing it one after the other, but using aggregates, it gives you option to ignore the error and give you the total sum on or average of what you want. Okay, so that's it. Have you ever want to generate a random list of number? Like you have a spreadsheet and you needed random number of different lists, okay? Now there's something we call round array, okay? What we use it for is to generate random list of number. I know you haven't heard of that. Okay, now let's do it. So the first thing you do is to type your equals to, then you type round array. This is it over here. Now you double click on it and it gives you option. Now the first option is how many numbers of row do you want? I want 20. Then you give it a comma. The next option is how many number of column do you want? I want 5. Then you give it comma. Now the next stage is from what range to what range, okay? I want from 1, comma, then to what? 100, comma. Now, the next stage is the number of lists you want. Do you want them in decimal or a whole number called an integer? So I want it in integer. Then you double click on it and you close the bracket. Magic. Then you press enter. Just take a look at it. I told you we have a lot of hacking tools you can use to make your job smooth and fast. So now we just generate a random list of number using round array. So this is how it works. Okay, now we have a spreadsheet here that talks about order date and delivery dates. Okay, so now have you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to get the difference between your order date and your delivery date? And at a point you feel like, how do I go about this? Here we are going to get it done. We have a shipping which has an order date of the 1st of June 2024, and we have the delivery date which is on the 30th August 2024. So now the assignment is to get the different days between the order day and the delivery date. Okay. Now to achieve this, we are going to use a formula called dated if. Okay, which probably a very few people knows about, but let's put it on the timeline and let's see how it works. Now, what dated if does is that it gives you the difference between the order date and the delivery date. Also, the difference between the order date and the delivery date of months. Okay, so we are talking about difference between date, month, and year. Let's start with the day. Okay, now on the day part, how do we get the difference between the order date and the delivery date to get our difference day? That is the question. And for question number 2, how do we get the order date and the delivery date to achieve our difference months? And for the last one, how do we get our order date and delivery date to achieve our difference year? Now let's start with the first one. Now what we need to use is what we call dated if. Now we start with equals to dated if. Don't worry, just open the bracket, the option will show. So click on it. Now you can see that. So what is the first thing? We need to select our order date. We give it a comma. Then our delivery date, which is C3, we give it a comma. Then we give it a space and open this double quotes to indicate what we are working on. So we are working on our day. You give it D, then you close the double quote. And what next? You close the bracket. Now let's enter. That's it. So we have 90 days different from our order date and delivery date. So you can just double click it. Perfect. So that's it. Now, how do we get our difference month? We are going to apply similar formula, but just some little changes. So we start with is equals to dated if, then you open your bracket. Remember, we start with our order date. You give it a comma. We move to the next stage, delivery date. You give it a comma, then space, open the double quote, then you put your M, which means for months. Then you close the double quote, close the bracket, then that's it. So you double click on it. Perfect. Now to achieve the difference for the year, we use what we call year frag. Okay, we call it year frag. So this can give you the actual difference of the year in decimal places. Okay, so let's do that. We can use the same formula we use in our difference days and difference month, but it gives you a whole number. Okay, so normally when it comes to years, we need something like decimal, like 0.25 in years. So we are going to use what we call our year frag to get this. So we start with is equals to year frag. So this is it. Then what are we calculating? We start with our what? Order day. Okay, and we move to what? Delivery date. Then we close the bracket, then enter. So that's it. 0.025, then we click down, double click on it. So this is how it works. This is amazing. Let's talk about subtotal. Now, what subtotal does is that it helps you to calculate categories of information in different layouts, okay? Now, for example, when you use SUMIF, what it does is that it gives you the range of calculation of whatever categories of information you really want to calculate. But there's this magic about subtotal, okay? Like, for example, I have automotive, I have diversified, so what it does is that it categorizes them and give you the total of the revenue country by country. Okay, now, first, before we get to it, the first thing is to do what? We need to highlight it, okay? And then we have to go to sort and let's give it, okay, in ascending order, okay, that is settled. Now, the next stage now is to go to data. Okay, when you get your data, you click on subtotal. Now, we have it here. Now, look at the dialog box. Now, what this is telling us right now is that at each change in industry, because that's the column we are working on, that's industry, okay, now which function are we using? Do we need the sum of each of the industry in categories, or we just need like our count, our average, maximum? So you have to make your choice. But right now, I need the sum of each categories. So I'm going to use my sum. And then what else? So our tax revenue country by country is checked because that is where the sum is going to be formalized. Okay, so now we have to click on OK. Now give it some seconds. Now this is it. This is it. So we have automotive, okay, and the total of what we have there is 9.6. So we have diversify, okay, and the total of diversify we have is what? Is 20, okay, we have is 20.8. So when you scroll down, you can see, and when you want to collapse this, you have to click on your 1. Okay, so what it does, it gives you the general total of the tax revenue country by country. So when you click on your 2, it gives you just, okay, the distincts of the industry. Okay, so it shows you that the automotive total is 9.6, total is 20.8, but when you click on number 3, it breaks it down. So now you have everything. So this is how subtotal works. It's a very cool hacking tools are used most of the time, so you can just check it out. Let's talk about clipboard. This is one of the hacking tools you can use because it stores information. When you copy or you paste or you cut, it's stored into clipboard. So which means you have access to bring back those information. So now to get to your clipboard, you have to go to your home from your ribbon bar and then you click on this. So it shows this. So now as you can see, I have a lot of information I've copied and pasted. So first, let me clear all this. So now let me give you an instance. Okay, now I click on copy. I come over here. Again, I click on copy. I come over here, copy. So I'm selecting the information I want to copy. So this helps a lot because I don't have to start pasting one after the other. So all I have to do is to click on my cell and click on what? Paste all. So what clipboard does is that it gives you room to select some specific information you want to paste at once. And it stores most of your copy and cut, so you have it here. You can go back, check it, and then paste it. So these are some tools you can use to make some magic while you are working. So clipboard is very, very important. So it's one of the tools I love using, especially when I have so many big numbers and then long numbers. So all I have to do is just to select the ones I need and then open my clipboard, then paste it. So it's faster than you pasting one after the other. So that is clipboard. Now let's talk about hiding your sheet. Okay, hiding your spreadsheet. How do you do that? How can you hide your job? How can you hide your spreadsheet? How can you hide your record? All this, how can you do that in Excel? We have various ways you can hide your spreadsheet. For example, I have sheet 1. Then I have this called the billionaire statistic data set. So let's assume I want to hide this billionaire statistic data set. So how do you hide it? Among all the options we have, I'm going to show you one of the best that won't be obvious. You don't need to hide it. You just have to do what? To keep it up the page. So now, let's get to it. So first, you have to go to your developer. Now, this is your developer. The next thing you have to do is to go to where we call your virtual basic. Okay? Now, when you get here, you have two options. You have your project and you have your property. So first, you have to select the sheet you want to hide. So I'm hiding the billionaire statistic data set. Fine. Now I have to go to my visibility. That's where the property is. Now I have to choose what we call very hidden. Okay, so this is it. That's the third one. So just click on it and that's all. So the next thing I have to do is to click on what? Close. Done. As you can see, it's not here. The only information you can see here is sheet 1. So in a situation where you have like 10 sheets, okay, and you needed to hide some for security reason, or there are some information you felt is not for public domain. So this is the best way to do that. So there is no way you can get information from here, and there's no way you can know that something is hidden. So, but when you want to retrieve it back, you have to pass through the same process. So just go to a virtual basic. You have to click on your billionaire, okay? Then you come back here, and then you click on what? Visible, and that's all. So now you have it here. So this is how it works. So this is a very cool tool you can use to hide your sheet, as many as you want. Okay, now let's talk about go to cell. Okay, go to cell is the fastest way to get a row or to find a column. Fastest way. So we have other ways and options. You can get your columns, get your rows, locate each and every one of your values. We have different ways, but one of the fastest way is go to cell. Okay, let me scroll down. Let's assume that I need B33, okay, which is this, my B33. Now, the best way to get this instead of scrolling up and down is to type it from where? From the name box, okay? All I have to do is to type what? Okay, let me type B23 and enter. So it takes me there direct. So there are some situations where you have like almost thousands of columns and rows. So you use your go to cell to indicate or search for columns and rows. Okay, let's search for B33. All I have to do is to go here and do what? Type it, B33, and enter. It takes me there. So this is one of the cool tools I use majorly when I have, like a large data set, with a lot of rows. Okay, when I'm searching for a specific column, I use my go to cell. Okay, now let's search for B20 or B1. Okay, instead of scrolling up, just type it B1 and then enter. It takes you there. So this is how it works. Please kindly subscribe, like, and share for more videos. Thank you.